Welcome to today's session on motivation. I think all of you are familiar, this is one of the important aspects of behavior of the human beings, but I always doubt whether it is a cognitive component or affective component or behavioral component. What do you say? Is it a cognitive component? Is it an affective component or is it an behavioral component? What is your opinion?
Yes, intrinsic motivation is a cognitive component because it generates from within.
Can you give me an example for intrinsic motivation?
Being a topper in school, feeling that I am.
You are right.
Yes.
Let us examine what is this motivation, what are the different types of motivation, why some individuals differ in the motivation, why some individuals lack motivation. Definitely human beings have the individual differences and this motivation aspect is not an exception. Motivation is something which is an internal force, which activates us, which guides us, which directs the human behavior. Though we are speaking about human behavior and the human motivation, do you say that animals also have the motivation? For example, if there is a dog or if there is a cat, only when it is hungry, it will go and tries to find out the food. But when it is not hungry, it is not at all motivated to engage into any particular action, right? So, individuals also differ in our motivation levels. Some individuals get top ranks, some individuals, though they are regular, they do not get the rank. What is the difference? The main difference here is the motivation. Motivation is not just a behavioral component, it can be a cognitive component, it can be an affective component, it can also be a behavioral component. For example, if you are interested in watching cricket, definitely you will be planning about it, how to complete the homework in order to watch the match or in order to feel the difference, in order to feel the likes and dislikes and the other taste, naturally you will be expressing your feelings and you also show it in the behavior. So, motivation includes all these aspects. For example, you are attending this class, you have been preparing to attend this class, that is cognitive component. Wantedly, very happily you are trying to listen, that is a feeling, and you are seriously trying to take down the points, that is a behavioral component. So, when you have a motivation, it is something like an internal force which makes you reach the goal. People are able to reach the goals, people are unable to reach the goals just because of this concept of either motivation or lack of motivation. So, let us see how this motivation occurs. Do you think that occurs from the external environment or does it occur from the internal environment? What do you say? For example, our friend said intrinsic motivation. What is this intrinsic motivation? Only always within us? Suppose if I say I will give you an award or I will give you a reward if you do well in the class, what is that you do? Definitely you are motivated by the reward that I am giving. So, sometimes external forces interact, sometimes individual forces or internal forces also interact. So, there is one simple concept, motivation varies in the intensity, motivation varies in the direction. And how this motivation starts, what is the basic component, how this motivation comes from? There should be a need, we should feel the need. For example, I am feeling thirsty, so I will take the water. If I am not feeling thirsty, the glass of water will remain here, but I am not at all motivated to look at this. So, there should be a need to excel in the studies or need to eat, need to have some water. So, any action occurs only when there is a need. So, once you feel the need, what is the next component? The drive within us, the internal force within us helps us or impels us to go and engage in the action. Do you read every day? Do you read every day? Definitely not. But suppose if I say tomorrow or day after tomorrow there is an exam, what is motivating you? What is driving you? There is a force, there is a situation, there is a need to excel in the exam. The marks will be allotted. So, once there is a need, once you feel the need, the drive impels you to engage into the action. Once you are driven by the force, once you get the thought, if I do not get the marks or if I do not do well, what will happen? The consequence makes you think of it and then you engage in the action. Every day you are not reading, but probably these 2-3 days we will be reading early in the morning, late in the night. So, you are engaging into the action, right. So, once you engage in the action, one fine day you will get the results. You are very happy looking at the results, you are satisfied. So, the motivation is something like a circle. There will be a need, that need makes you, or that need drives you to engage into the action. Once you engage into the action, that results into the satisfaction. But do you think that the motivation stops there? If your motivation stops there, what happens? You might have stopped at LKG or 5th class or 10th class. But why did you reach here? Because of the motivation to excel. So, if one need satisfies, the other need crops up. The economist says man is a bundle of human wants, but a psychologist says man is a bundle of human motives. If one motive satisfies, the another motive crops up. So, this is called as the motivation cycle. Can you give me any example like how you felt one motivation or one motive has been successful, one motive has been satisfied, and then you have been focusing on the other?
When I was in school, I was willing to take a bicycle, and that was my motivation. After that need was satisfied, I was willing to take a bike. After bike, maybe I'm thinking about car or four-wheeler like that.
So, this is one example how the standard of living of an individual increases, because we are not satisfied with just one motive. If one motive is satisfied, we are thinking of the other motives. Naturally, when these motives are towards the positive side, naturally there will be a standard of living, there will be an effective way of life. Okay? Now, this concept of motivation can be explained by various number of concepts. Do you remember Freud, one of the significant personalities in the psychology? So, how did he explain the concept of motivation? What term did he use? Instinct. So, instinct is a better term to explain the motivation. Suppose if I ask, do we learn to motivate, or is the motivation within us? The motivation, according to Freud, is something which is innate, that is, it is instinct. For example, the child cries whenever the child requires food. Did we teach the child to cry whenever he wants the food? No. It is something, an instinct pattern, that is a prefixed pattern of behavior. Or when seriously a child is playing, when we disturb the child, he gets irritated. No one taught the child to get irritated, but the first experience, in the first experience itself, the child may show the frustration symptoms. That is something which is an example for the instinct. So, there are certain patterns of behavior which are prefixed. We need not be getting motivated from the external environment, but definitely there are internal forces, and that is called as the instinct. Do you know how many instincts the human beings have? Can you name some of the instincts?
We have two instincts, life instincts and death instincts.
Okay. What do you mean by life instinct? Aggressiveness, is it an instinct? Affection, showing love, all these are instincts. We are not taught to express these, we are not taught to learn these things, but we are born with some of these kind of the emotions. Okay? So, these are called as prefixed patterns of behavior, and the first person, McDougall, he said there are 18 instincts in the human beings. How many? 18. But later on, Bernard, he claimed that there are around 5,000 instincts in the human beings, not just 18. Probably you can understand by this exclamation that human behavior is not so easy to understand, not so easy to predict. It is a very complex behavior, because there are the instincts itself speak how complex it is, right. So, one example for the motivation is the instinct, and the motivation can also be equally explained by next concept, that is called drive. You are feeling hungry, what do? You are all alone at home. Do you just cry? Do you just feel lazy? But what makes you do, or how do you behave, how do you react in that situation when you are feeling so hungry and no one is around home?
Trying for the food, searching for
the food. You try to search for the food in the kitchen. If there is nothing, at least if you do not know how to cook, you will try to purchase something and have. So, until then you are very happy with the friends, or you are seriously watching your television, movies, or whatever it is. But suddenly when there is a struck in the stomach that you are feeling hungry, or when you are feeling thirsty, when the cells are deprived of the water, immediately, probably for some time you sustain that, but immediately you try to move from there, search where the food is or cook for the food, or if not, purchase the food and then try to satisfy yourself. That is called drive. What is making you? Something which is lacking. That could be your tissues of the body or the cells of the body which are deprived of the water, which made you feel that go from here, search for the food or search for the water and then have the water. That is called the drive. Okay. And the moment you feel that the behavior or you get the satisfaction by engaging in this behavior, you try to repeat that behavior. Whenever you are feeling hungry, whenever there is no one at home, you try to repeat that behavior. Okay? Now, there are two types of drives, primary drives, secondary drives. You know what is the difference between primary drives and secondary drives?
Maybe the primary drive is intrinsic, which makes us to reach to perform an action, and the secondary drive is the steps we take to reach that.
For example, you are feeling very hungry, you want to eat immediately. I will give you a 100 rupee note, I say eat. Will you do, can that 100 rupee note satisfy your hunger? No. What is that we have to do? We need to convert it into the food. So, the primary drives are those needs which are essential for our survival. If we have to survive, we need to have the food, we need to have the water. So, these are called the primary drives. In order to live, we want oxygen. Without oxygen, we cannot stay. That is the most important thing. So, if there is no ventilation, there is no air, and I will show you some good interesting things which you like. Are you able to enjoy that? Definitely not. You feel very uncomfortable, you want to come out of it. So, the primary drives are those needs or those drives which are essential for your survival. And this is not only to the human species, but also to the animals and the other beings. Now, the another concept is secondary drives. You are satisfied with the basic needs, but what is the other thing which motivates you? Only eating and sleeping? Will it give us any happy or motivated life? Why you are here? Why you are studying? What is the reason for studying? What is your motive behind it?
To learn more.
To learn more. What happens if you learn?
To explore ourselves and.
What else? Okay, you have understood, you acquired the knowledge, but what else?
How to utilize it.
Okay, in what way?
Good settlement in
Good
life.
settlement. So, in order to get a good job, you should have the knowledge. That knowledge comes from the education. So, the drive here is not just to live, but a very good recognized life, a good standard of living which gives you the job, which gives you the money, which gives you the status. So, those things which people excel, which people desire to be more happiest other than the basic needs are called the secondary drives. We are here, we are studying, we are working not just for the presence of the primary drives, because they are fulfilled, we are here to excel more than that. Okay? These are called secondary drives. And these drives push us to engage in that kind of a behavior. Exams are pushing you to do some activity, to achieve the result. The situation is pushing you, whether you are interested or not, to engage in a behavior. That is the reason why we call drive theories as push theories of motivation. So, whenever there is a biological need that leads to that creates a situation that makes you feel the force of the body or feel the force of the internal state, and you engage in the action. When you engage in the action, if those behaviors result in a positive way, you try to continue. If those behaviors do not give you any positive result, you try to reduce that. That is called as drive reduction theory of motivation. Do you seek excitement? Are you curious to learn many things? Do you explore new fields, new areas? How many of you sit before the internet and try to browse new things, innovative things, to learn, to equip yourself? Do you just take the drift from any kind of the activity and engage in certain excitement activities, mountain trekking, okay, or skydiving? If not those, even similar things. Okay. That is, we always seek the stimulation. No stimulation and the routine life makes you demotivated. So suddenly one day you feel, okay, today no work, will engage in some other innovative activity, that is arousal, you are aroused. I do not want the routine state, I want to do something extraordinary, I want to see the uniqueness in my life. So you drift from certain consistent behaviors and you try to engage in some innovative behaviors, that is called as arousal. Why you try to develop the hobbies, that is an arousal. Routine, break from the routine life. Swimming, dancing, music, all these things are examples for your arousal in the human beings and trying to seek some kind of a stimulation, sensation. Finally, motivation can also be explained by the concept of homeostasis. What is homeostasis? Something related to medical concept. Why we are studying here in the psychology? Are you balanced always? Sometimes we drift, we try to oscillate between the balance and imbalance. So, sometimes highly motivated, sometimes highly demotivated, as how our body temperature regulates. And what happens when there is a irregularity in the temperature? The body mechanism, it tries to control, it tries to restore the balance. Similarly, in the mental state, sometimes we are the top of the world, sometimes we are down to the earth. So, what is the reason? Okay. So, we have to bring down the balance between our mental states, and that is explained by the concept of homeostasis. Next concept, incentive. What is incentive? What is incentive?
A kind of reward.
A kind of a reward. So, what reward you expect by engaging in or by attending the classes? Is there any incentive?
Will be knowing the subject better.
You will be knowing the subject better. Okay.
And we can get good marks in exams.
Okay. So, were you promised any time, like if you get good marks, you will get this kind of a vehicle or some kind of a reward in the terms of a kind or cash? So, that motivates you. Probably as a child, parents might have motivated you by saying, if you get this much percentage, definitely I am going to buy what you want. That is an incentive. Can we say that incentives motivate us always? Incentives, can they motivate us always?
It can also demotivate us not to do a bad thing. Like
Demotivating, okay, right? Okay. At
When
least
it-
if not doing the good thing, not to do the
Not
bad,
bad
thing.
thing.
Okay. So, there are two types of incentives, intrinsic and extrinsic. I want to excel in my studies because I feel very happy by acquiring the knowledge. I feel very happy by achieving the degrees. That is something related to my intrinsic motivation. Okay. I want to spend my time, my leisure time, by listening to the music or by learning the music. No one gives me the reward, but I still pay some amount on that, and then I try to acquire those kind of skills. That is intrinsic motivation. Okay? That is something which comes from within. No external environment is supporting you. And at the same time, extrinsic motivation also equally important. Why? Why people are working only for intrinsic motivation? Even for the extrinsic motivation. If I am working, if my job is well appreciated and paid, probably I can improve my living conditions, I can improve my standard of living. So, the money or any other cash or kind may help us to motivate ourselves and engage in that kind of action. So, intrinsic, extrinsic are like two sides of the same coin. We cannot belittle one at the cost of the other. Shall we go to the next concept, one of the important concepts which has been well recognized all over the world, that is need for achievement motivation. How many of you are high on need for achievement motivation? What do you mean by need for achievement motivation? We have number of needs. Man is a bundle of human needs. We have to agree to that. Need not be only economic needs, but also psychological needs. We have biological needs that are something like primary drives. We have sociogenic needs where we need to be appreciated by the people, we want to be among the people. At the same time, we also have psychological needs. And among these psychological needs, one basic need is need for achievement motivation. That is the feeling, the ability to achieve the success. Among some people, this Achievement motivation is inherent, it is stable, it is a pattern, consistent pattern of behavior. So, this need for achievement motivation has been given by McClelland. He is a famous psychologist who worked on this concept, and he identified how the characteristics of these people would be. People who are high on achievement motivation, do they take simple tasks and achieve success, or difficult tasks and achieve success? If I want to prove myself, I am a successful person, I want to prove, I want to excel, should I take easy task or should I take a difficult task? How will people recognize my success?
If we take up a difficult task and succeed in that, people will recognize our success more compared to the other.
Okay. For example, everyone is successfully doing one particular task. Is there any uniqueness in you? But everyone, or probably some people, they are trying for the difficult tasks, okay, mountaineering probably, but unfortunately they are failing. Do you want to take up that? Those where everyone is failing in that particular task? If you want to be successful, put the moderate tasks, put the goals realistically, that will enable you to achieve the success. The second important psychological concept is need for affiliation. Do you prefer to be alone, or do you want to be in the company of others?
In the company of others.
Suppose like if you have to stay alone at home for a couple of days, how would you feel?
Not so comfortable.
Not so probably one day you will be enjoying it. Full autonomy, full freedom, no restrictions, but immediately probably the next day itself you will be feeling the lack of company and other aspects. So, human beings are high on need for affiliation. Especially, what do you mean by this affiliation? Seeking the companionship of others, always wanting to be in the company of others. So, why you want to be, or when you want to be in the company of others? When you are very happy or when you are unhappy?
In fact, in both the circumstances, individual wants to be with people.
Right. When you are very happy, you want to share your experiences with the others. Suppose like you wanted to share very good experiences, but when there is no one at home, father is out of station, mother is somewhere else, and there is no one, how you feel at that moment? Very sad, right? At the same time, you are also very anxious, you are worrying about certain crisis that you are undergoing. You want to share with any person, it could be family members or friends, but no one is available immediately. How would you react? How would you feel? Naturally, feelings of sadness, feelings of depression, right? So, when consistently you have to be in the absence of the people, generally your motivation to achieve anything will not be there. So, people also seek need for affiliation, whether you are in the happy mood or whether you are in the negative mode. Apart from these two, what is the other important thing which people seek? Achievement is there, affiliation is also there, but what is the third component or third important motivational concept? How many of you would like to be the President of India, Prime Minister of India? So, need for power. Need for power is the most important motivational concept. How many of you have acted as the class reps? Definitely, all of us might have been. So, how were your behaviors then in those situations when you were given the chance to rule the others? Friendly or dominating, trying to show the influence? Naturally, the need for power. No person, if you believe, if you can imagine any person that if he says, I do not have any need for power, that is something which is not a fact. Okay? Either in some degree or the kind, the need for power will be there. You can just see from the small children. A 6-year-old child, if given the responsibility to take care of the 4-year-old brother or sister, how this child reacts to the other child, tries to dominate, how the parents behave towards the children, naturally this child, the elder child, tries to react in the same way. So, there itself we can see that even from the childhood, every individual possess these kind of the needs. So, need for power, need to dominate, need to influence. Don't you influence your friends with your views? Don't you feel irritated if they are not listening to you? That is something which is inherent. Okay? And we also learn, people will recognize those who can show or exercise this power, and you wanted that power to dominate others and also to achieve the recognition. There are gender roles in how people express this kind of the power. How women dominate, how men dominate. Men try to be more aggressive, okay, in order to show their power. Then what about women? They are more nurturant, more caring, more concerned. We feel like they are very nurturing type, but behind that or beneath that, that's the need for power. I can dominate others, I can influence others through my concern, through my expression of love and affection. Okay, there is a source of power, need for power beneath that, whereas men behave more aggressively. So these are the different concepts of motivation, how the motivation cycle goes on, and important needs. If you have any doubts, you can raise the questions.
Ma'am, can you give example for a homeostasis?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Homeostasis is restoring the balance. So sometimes it is very natural to shift from very happy state to the unhappy state. So when you are feeling sad that you didn't get the marks or you didn't have the same kind of a cell which your friend has possessed. So what happens? There are feelings of sadness and happiness. But do you try to be in the same condition? No, probably for few minutes, okay, or for a day. But after that you try to come back to the normalcy. You don't brood over that for a period of time. That is homeostasis. But if you are going to do that, if you are continuously, consistently worried about it, that means you are drifting away from the normalcy. Most of us, we try to deviate from the normalcy, but again we come back to the balanced state. So we are called as normal human beings.
Is it compulsory that each and every person should have the need for power?
It is not compulsory as such, but this need for power is inherent among the human beings. Only thing is that varies in the intensity. Some try to express this kind of a power at the cost of their own life and also at the cost of the others. You can take the examples of Hitler and other people. But in the other human beings, probably in a subtle way, they try to control. You can observe people, how they interact with the others. If you don't accept their view, how they react. But at the same time, they don't try to harm or become hostile or aggressive. Okay?
You mentioned there are two types of incentives, intrinsic and extrinsic. According to you, which kind of incentive is better?
So initially, suppose like if you want to discipline a child or if you want to change your behavior, definitely extrinsic motivation will instigate that. Okay, I get this, so or I get the praise or appreciation or I get this reward, so I try to mold my behavior. Once you learn that behavior, once you understand the importance of it, naturally that will become an intrinsic motivation. Whether there is a reward or not, whether people appreciate or not, we try to continue to behave in the same way.
Like even a mother will express her nurturing style to the child. So is it that is the power which the mother is showing to towards the child?
See, nurturing is one of the important characteristics of the mother, but at the same time, when the mother has to control the child, discipline the child, also the mother will be using this kind of a nurturing. So it varies. You have to depend upon the situation. You have to see the intensity of the situation and the pattern of the behavior expressed by the mother. Okay. Overall, every nurturing behavior need not be the power, but depends on the situation.